This video provides a step-by-step solution for an intermediate Sudoku puzzle and game demo brought to you by SUBingDOKU. Here is the intermediate Sudoku puzzle for you to solve. Pause the video, then use a snipping tool or something similar to make a paper copy of the puzzle, or search the internet and print a copy of a blank 9x9 Sudoku grid. If you get stuck and cannot find the next number, then resume the video for hints, or just follow along with the video and see what techniques I use to solve this intermediate Sudoku puzzle. Remember, there is more than one path to the final solution. Follow these basic rules to solve Sudoku puzzles. The step-by-step solution for this intermediate Sudoku puzzle will provide techniques used for beginner plus new techniques for solving this intermediate puzzle. Remember, there is only one final solution to this puzzle. Here's a hint. Scan the columns. For the left panel, the 4s in columns D and E block all of the remaining open cells in the top center 3x3 square. Cell F3, that's column F, row 3, must be a 4. Scan rows and columns. For the right panel, the 3s in column A plus row 3 block all of the remaining open cells in the top left 3x3 square. Cell B2, that's column B, row 2, must be a 3. As noted previously, cell F3, column F, row 3, for the top center 3x3 square in the left panel must be a 4. As noted previously, cell B2, column B, row 2, for the top left 3x3 square in the right panel must be a 3. This Sudoku puzzle can also be played like a game. See SUBingDOKU game rules on the next slide. Here are the SUBingDOKU puzzle game rules. Player A finds that cell G2 for the left panel must be a 4, since the 4s in row 1 and row 3 block all of the remaining open cells in the top right 3x3 square. Player A started round 3 and scores 4 points. Player B finds cell G3, that's column G, row 3, for the left panel must be a 9, since the 9s in row 1 and column I block all of the remaining open cells in the top right 3x3 square. Player B was next in round 3 and scores 9 points. Player C notices that cell H5, that's column H, row 5, for the left panel must be a 4, or cell I3, that's column I, row 3, for the right panel must be a 1. Player C decides to go for 4 points. As time runs out, Player D notices that cell I3, that's column I, row 3, for the left panel must be a 1. The scores for players C and D are shown in the right panel. Player E notices that cell H6 for the left panel must be a 5. Round 3 ends with the scores noted below, and Player B is in the lead. In round 4, none of the players could find the next number. The facilitator advises that cell H7, that's column H, row 7, for the left panel must be a 9. Remember, numbers can only appear once in any row and column as shown in the left panel. Player A notices that cell A2, column A, row 2, for the left panel must be a 1. Player B notices that cell D2 for the right panel must be a 2, since all of the other numbers in row 2 are filled. Player C notices that cell D1 in the left panel must be a 3, since the 3s in column E and row 3 block all of the open cells in the top center 3x3 square. Player D notices that cell D3 for the right panel must be a 6. Player E notices that cell E1 in the left panel must be a 5, since all of the other numbers in the top center 3x3 square are filled except for the 5. Here are the results at the end of round 5, with player B still in the lead. Remembering the previous technique used by the facilitator, player A notices that cell E4, column E, row 4, for the left panel must be an 8. Player B notices the same technique can be used for the right panel, and cell B3 must be a 5. Player C notices that cell G9 in the left panel must be a 1. Player D notices that cell D8 for the right panel must be a 1. Player E notices that cell D5 in the left panel must be a 5 using the row and column technique. Here are the results at the end of round 6, with player B still in the lead. Player A notices that cell D9, that's column D, row 9, for the left panel must be a 9 since all of the other cells in column D are filled. Player B notices that now cell F7 in the right panel must be a 5 since all of the other cells in the bottom center 3x3 square are filled. Player C notices that cell A1 in the left panel must be a 7 for the top left 3x3 square. Player C also notices that cell C8 for the right panel must be a 9 in the bottom left 3x3 square. Player C goes with the 9 in cell C8 and picks up an extra 2 points. Player D notices that cell A1 for the left panel must be a 7. Player E notices that cell G1 for the right panel must be an 8. The facilitator demonstrated a new technique. Either cell B5 or cell B6 in the left panel will be a 1. No points, but it might help find a number later in the puzzle. Here are the results at the end of round 7. Player A finds a 5 for cell C9 in the left panel. Player B finds a 5 for cell A4 in the left center 3x3 square. See the right panel. Player C finds a 3 for cell C4 in the left panel. Player D finds a 6 for cell F4 in the right panel. Player E finds a 4 for cell B4 in the left panel, since all of the other numbers in row 4 are filled. Here are the results at the end of round 8. Player A and E are tied for the lead. Player A finds an 8 for cell H9. Player B finds a 3 for cell F5. Player C finds the 7 for cell G5 in the left panel. Player D finds the 3 for the cell G7 in the right panel. Player E finds the 4 for cell A7 in the left panel. Here are the results at the end of round 9. Player A now takes the lead. Player A finds a 7 for cell I7 in the left panel. Player B takes a chance and says cell I8 in the left panel must be a 4, since the 4s in column A and column H block the open spaces in row 8. The facilitator says correct and double checks the solution at the end of the puzzle. Player B gets 4 points. Player C finds a 7 for cell B9 in the left panel. Player D finds the 6 for cell A8 in the right panel, since all of the other cells in the bottom left 3x3 square are filled. Player E finds a 2 for cell H8 in the left panel. Here are the results at the end of round 10. Player A now leads by 8 points. Player A finds a 6 in the left panel for cell I9, since all of the other numbers in row 9 are filled. Player B finds a 6 in the right panel for cell H1, since all of the other numbers in column H are filled. Player C finds a 2 for cell I1 in the left panel. In the right panel, player B finds a 3 for cell I6. Player E finds a 6 for cell B5 in the left panel. Here are the results. At the end of round 11, player A is taking a commanding lead. Player A could not find a number higher than 1 before the time ran out and settles for the 1 in cell B6. Player B finds a 1 in cell E5. Player C finds a 2 for cell E6 in the left panel. In the right panel, player D finds a 2 for cell C5. Player E finds a 7 for cell C6 in the left panel. Here are the results at the end of round 12. Player E has closed the gap. Player A finds an 8 for cell A6. Player B finds a 2 for cell A3. Player C gets the last number in the puzzle, an 8, for cell C3. Here are the final results. Player A wins. Congratulations! I hope you enjoyed working through this intermediate Sudoku game puzzle. As a cross-check, notice that the sum of every row and column equals 45. Also 45 for the sum of every 3x3 square. Stay tuned to this channel. Up next will be more step-by-step solutions for Sudoku puzzles brought to you by SUbingDOKU. If you liked this video, then please subscribe. Comments are also appreciated. Thank you. For additional Sudoku hints, techniques, and tricks, see www.SUbingDOKU.com.